My name is James Madison Hemings by Jonah Winter and Terry Widener. Author's note. James Madison Hemings, known as Madison, was born on January 19, 1805 on Thomas Jefferson's plantation, Monticello, in Virginia, and he died on November the 28th, 1877 in Huntington, Ross County, Ohio. He was the son of Sally Hemings, who was enslaved by Thomas Jefferson. Sally was the granddaughter of an enslaved African woman and an English sea captain named Hemings. They had a daughter, Elizabeth, who was owned by Jefferson's father-in-law, John Wales. Sally was the daughter of Elizabeth and Wales. As such, she was the half-sister of Jefferson's deceased wife, Martha Wales Jefferson. 1/4 of her heritage was African, which meant that just 1/8 of her children's heritage was African, making them very fair-skinned and legally white, according to the laws of Virginia in the early 1800s. In an 1830 census, Madison was listed as white. In an 1833 census, and on all further ones, he was listed as mulatto. That such arbitrary racist labels even exist is a topic for another book. During Madison's childhood, there were rumors circulated by Jefferson's political enemies, some even printed in newspapers, that Jefferson was the father of all the Hemings children. Rumors Jefferson never confirmed or denied. Some of Jefferson's admirers and white descendants have argued vigorously that such rumors were, and still are, ridiculous lies, but scientific evidence based on DNA samples from Eastern Hemings descendants has convinced most historians that Jefferson was indeed the father of Sally's children. In many ways, Thomas Jefferson is one of the most impressive figures in American history. He owned and read more than 60,000 books and spoke 6 languages. He was a president, an architect, an inventor, a farmer, a musician, and a writer. His writing promotes such noble ideals as education and religious freedom, and he did indeed write the Declaration of Independence. His words, "All men are created equal," continue to inspire people and nations around the world. But Jefferson's life and legacy are full of contradictions. He wrote beautifully about liberty and equality and called slavery a hideous blot. And as president, he outlawed the importation and enslavement of people from Africa. But he was also one of slavery's staunchest advocates and practitioners, and his half-hearted gestures toward gradual emancipation do not change this fact. He owned more than 600 enslaved people throughout his life. He believed that people of African heritage were intellectually inferior to white people, and that freed African Americans should be exiled to Africa. After serving in the Virginia House of Burgess before the Revolution, he tried to get a law passed that would have banished white mothers of mixed-race children and all free African American children. And then there is the issue of his own enslaved children. These facts, alas, are all too often omitted from American history textbooks. This book is inspired by and partially based on James Madison Hemings' 1873 newspaper interview, in which he briefly summed up his family's story, including the bombshell that he was the son of Thomas Jefferson. He was the only one of Sally Hemings' children to go public with this claim. Aside from this interview, there is limited documentation of Madison's childhood. To make it come alive for young readers, I presented this story in a first-person narrative as historical fiction, choosing to dramatize certain moments, such as the one in which Madison discovers that Jefferson was his father. Though Madison's interview makes no reference to it, my belief is that there would have been such a moment. Throughout the history of slavery, there were thousands of children whose fathers were also their owners. Every one of these children had to process this fact. Other details from Madison's early life that I had to flesh out: who taught him how to read and write, how he came to own a violin, how he learned to play the violin, and whether he ever heard his father play the violin. Where proof is lacking, I have suggested what I believe to be the most likely scenarios. Though Madison did not specify in his memoirs which white grandchildren helped him learn to read, it seems probable that Ellen did. She is known to have tutored other enslaved people, and Madison named one of his daughters after her. I have Jefferson giving Madison a violin, which seems possible. He loved the violin and gave musical instruments to his grandchildren, and I have Madison teaching himself how to play, which also seems possible. I was able to piece together what Madison's life must have been like thanks to the groundbreaking work of historian Annette Gordon Reed, whose writings on the Hemings family and Jefferson's participation in that family have changed our understanding of this topic. Many celebratory books have been written about Thomas Jefferson. In writing this book about Madison Hemings, I wanted to present a different perspective on Jefferson's complex legacy and to cast light on the life of a largely forgotten human being whose story has mainly been swept under the rug of history.